Hey guys, welcome back to the Prehistoric Life Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Crawford, and today we are in the semifinals of our tournament. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right in with some general knowledge about these amazing beasts. So we're going to start off with Acrocanthosaurus versus Triceratops. Let me pull up my acro notes real quick, if you will. We got Acrocanthosaurus here, coming in at a whopping 4 meters, which is about 13-ish feet tall, which is about the same height as Tyrannosaurus, and about, I'll go 11.5 meters long, which is about 37 to 38 feet in length. This thing comes in at a whopping 4.9 to 7.3 short tons, or 4.4 to 6.6 metric tons. And it has a bite force of 8,266 newtons in the front of the jaws and 6,894 in the back. So this thing will be biting pretty dang hard. So it's got a big enough bite force to really cause some damage, and it is not T-Rex though, which will be an advantage for Triceratops here. But the one thing is, its arms are slightly more usable. It might as well. No. Its arms are very much so more useful than T-Rex. So that will be a huge disadvantage that Triceratops will not really know how to deal with, is that it's not used to fighting something with that kind of mobility, if you will. So now we're going to move on to the Triceratops. Hang on, let me pull that up. Don't actually know where I kept that one. Right here, I guess. So coming in with the Triceratops. Struggling here, pulling everything down while I do. Coming in at a whopping height of 4 meters, so actually about the same height, which is about 13-ish feet, and about 9 feet long, which is about 30, or 9 meters, which is about 30 feet. Triceratops doesn't, it's used to fighting large, it's used to being hunted and fought by large carnivores. The only thing that it won't really know is that the Acrocanthosaurus has usable front appendages. I mean, there are things like Dromaeosaurs that would do that, but it's not used to fighting a big predator with arms, which could give Acrocanthosaurus a huge edge, but it's still used to fighting things with a stronger bite force. If Acrocanthosaurus can use its arms to kind of maneuver it out the way. The only thing is, Triceratops does weigh more. It's got what was it, 2 tons on it, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head. So, it won't be as easy for Acrocanthosaurus to just kind of go push and get the Triceratops out the way. So that will be a huge advantage for the Triceratops. That being said, Acrocanthosaurus, if I'm remembering straight, is an allosaurid, so it's not known for its bite force. It's known for its hack things, where it kind of just bites very viciously at things. So let's go ahead and dive into this battle, and go from there. Why not? A lone Triceratops is grazing on ferns, whatever it can find, when an Acrocanthosaurus stalks it, snarling. The Triceratops hears it snarl and turns around facing the Acrocanthosaurus. The Acrocanthosaurus roars, charging into the Triceratops. The Triceratops draws its leg back, scratching at the ground, challenging the big beast. The Acrocanthosaurus roars, charging in. Triceratops puts its frills in the way. As Acrocanthosaurus charges, Triceratops charges too. Acrocanthosaurus sidesteps, barely in the chest, getting grazed by the tip of the horn of Triceratops. Acrocanthosaurus grabs onto the frill and tries to push Triceratops' head, but Triceratops' greater weight is able to keep it in the game. It takes its short horn and stabs it into the leg, not the shin, of Acrocanthosaurus, blood busting open the shin, making it bleed. Acrocanthosaurus steps back, biting one of the horns. As it takes one of its claws, placing it on the snout and on the upper frill. It tries to push Triceratops away, but Triceratops shakes its head, trying to jerk its horn loose from Acrocanthosaurus, eventually doing it. But its frill is the back of its frill is facing Acrocanthosaurus as Acrocanthosaurus bites the neck of Triceratops, clamping down. But the thick neck of Triceratops keeps it from being severed so easily. The Triceratops is roaring out in pain, Acrocanthosaurus slashing and clawing, eventually slashing the eye out of Triceratops on one side and on the side, but that doesn't do as much. Angered, Triceratops jerks its head, ripping it clean from the jaws of Acrocanthosaurus, slicing the side of Acrocanthosaurus' face with its horn. Acrocanthosaurus roars out in pain and agony, but Triceratops does not care. Bleeding from its eye, Acrocanthosaurus bleeding from its face. Triceratops charges in. Acrocanthosaurus sidesteps as the horn pierces straight through the shoulder of Acrocanthosaurus, not killing it, but disabling one of its arms. Rip. Acrocanthosaurus, now sitting basically on the frill of Triceratops, bites and claws at the frill in the back, trying to get what it can, but it can't get much. Triceratops rips his horn out of Acrocanthosaurus, basically ripping its arm off. But Acrocanthosaurus is not subdued so easily. Acrocanthosaurus bites the horn, but Triceratops is able to jerk it out, scratching the horn. As it headbutts, using part of the frill to smash into the face of Acrocanthosaurus. Almost eye to eye. Eyes to eye, if you will. They snort at each other. Acrocanthosaurus roars, but Triceratops does not care. It charges in, jamming its horn into the back of the throat of Acrocanthosaurus, piercing the back of the skull through the back of the neck, finishing off the mighty beast as it rips its horn out. Bleeding out, the Acrocanthosaurus stumbles back. With one final attempt, it charges in, slamming into the side of Triceratops, not really knocking it over, but making it budge. Triceratops takes its horn and smashes the side of its skull into Acrocanthosaurus, then taking its horn and dragging it down the entire side, scratching it open. As Acrocanthosaurus is bleeding out slowly, its eyes glazing over, death near, the Triceratops does a little loop, turns around and charges straight in, ramming both of its horns right into the side of Acrocanthosaurus, eventually piercing its lungs as it rips it out. Acrocanthosaurus, being able to barely push itself off of Triceratops' horns, collapses, bleeding out. Triceratops roars out in victory. Well, not really roars, but snorts out in victory as it goes back to grazing. So, yeah, this is like the Tarbosaurus with Ankylosaurus kind of thing. It's a weaker T-Rex, if you will. Tyrannosaurs were able to take over control from these things, basically. So the only real thing that Acro really had going for it was usable forelimbs. So, I mean, it's not really good. If it outweighed Triceratops, that would be very, very, very useful. If this was like Styracosaurus, it would be able to kind of push it around, maybe push it over, scratch its face up even more. But Triceratops is as big as, well, I say as big, about as tall as Acro, and actually weighs more. So it's not. So it's not really a good. Basically, all I'm saying is Triceratops wins easier than I'm probably giving it credit for. So now, well, before we move on to the next fight, here's a word from our sponsor. Take it away.
Thanks, Podcast Eric. Now let's talk about today's sponsor, Dinosaur Trips. If you love looking at these amazing creatures that I show you, and even talking about these amazing creatures that I talk about, and you want to go see them in real life, I heavily suggest you look at Dinosaur Trips. Dinosaur Trips, created by Zach, gives you behind-the-scenes and look at museums, and he even takes people out to digs. So if you sound interested in that, go to www.dinosaurtrips.com and tell them that Prehistoric Life sent you, and they will give you $250 off your tickets. And here's their Instagram if you're interested in giving them a follow.
So now we're going to move on from Acrocanthosaurus and Triceratops. Let's see if I get this right. Yeah. To Ankylosaurus and Suchiomimus. I know you're probably like, what in the Sam Hill? This ain't another fair fight for the semifinals. Yeah, I know. So we're going to start off with Ankylosaurus. And we're going to use upper estimates to be gracious. So coming in at about 3 meters tall, which is about 10 foot, 9.8 if you want to get technical. And a whopping 11 meters, which is about 36 feet. Coming in at a massive weight of 4.8 to 8 metric tons, 5.3 to 8.8 short tons. So Suchiomimus will not be tossing this thing around. And as we know, Ankylosaurus could hit with 14,000. What was it? Like, what did we determine? 14,360 newtons of force with its tail. So Ankylosaurus is a just beast and a half waiting to ravage the poor Suchiomimus. Not even really. If we use the lower estimate, Suchiomimus might have a chance. I'm using the upper one. I should have used the upper one for the last one, but that actually did not make a difference. So using it here will actually put the edge even more in Ankylosaurus's face. Like I said last time, Ankylosaurus is a living tank with a bone pulverizer on the end of its tail. This is about as fair as a fight as you'll think it'll go. But for all fairness and all of that, let's go ahead and get the Suchiomimus size estimates and all that. So Suchiomimus coming in at a whopping 3 meters. I will put the edge. I will give it 3 meters tall, 9.8 to 10 foot, and a whopping 10 meters, which is about 32 foot. So it's about the same height and length as Ankylosaur, coming in at a whopping weight of 2.5 to 3.8 or metric tons, or 2.8 to 4.2 short tons. So this thing will be quicker, but it won't be moving around as much. Or, well, it won't be able to do much. According, as we know, as the bite force of 4,037 or around 400 kilograms, comparable to an alligator, may have been able to catch lamprey. However, some say that Suchiomimus narrow jaw may have been too fragile to take on large prey. So this would probably fall under large prey. And as much as it pains me to say it, I won't say it yet. So let's go ahead and dive on into this battle. Let me actually do this so that I can show off Suchiomimus for the last time. So a lone Ankylosaurus reaches a creek. Suchiomimus emerges from the creek. You won't balance. Suchiomimus emerges from the creek. Seeing the Ankylosaurus drinking, it charges in, roaring at the Ankylosaurus, trying to scare it off. Ankylosaurus freaked out. It's like, what's going on? As it gets to its side, putting its side lower to the ground. Suchiomimus able to maneuver quicker. Ankylosaurus swings. Suchiomimus jerks its head back, but the tip of its snout is smashed. Its jaw's not broken, though. Just run into the fight. Suchiomimus charges in again, trying to bite at the back of Ankylosaurus, but it realizes the osteoderms are too sharp. Being similar to the size of Ankylosaurus, it's actually able to get its claws under and slash at the legs of Ankylosaurus. But this actually collapses Ankylosaurus a bit, making it actually more difficult for Ankylosaurus or Suchiomimus to actually pierce the Ankylosaurus now. Ankylosaurus starts to bite the neck and head. Its jaws are clamped around the bottom. Ankylosaurus, with ease, jerks its head from its jaws, cracking some of the teeth out of Suchiomimus. Suchiomimus takes its big claw and drags it down the top of the head, not doing anything. But when it reaches the eye, it jams its big claw right into the eye of Ankylosaurus, half blinding it. Ankylosaurus screams out in pain, half blind, as it swings around and smashes the neck of Suchiomimus. Suchiomimus' neck really, really stinging. It goes to back up, but Ankylosaurus brings its tail and brings it back again, smashing into the shoulder, shattering the shoulder of Suchiomimus. Its arm going limp, as a huge gash is left, blood seeping from it. Suchiomimus then tries to bite Ankylosaurus' face again, not doing much due to the hard head of Ankylosaurus. Ankylosaurus brings its arm back and swings it around, hitting the side of Suchiomimus, shattering its ribs and its body. Suchiomimus roars out in pain, but Ankylosaurus does not care. It actually does something that I didn't really discuss here. It just rams its shoulder into Suchiomimus' chest, knocking it over. As Suchiomimus lays there, Ankylosaurus slowly walks over it, trampling it until it's on the other side, lifting its tail up, slamming it into the body of Suchiomimus over and over and over again, shattering more ribs and pulverizing it to basically a fine powder. Suchiomimus not being able to withstand it. As it tries to get up, Ankylosaurus swings its leg down, breaking down the, was that your fibia? I think that's your fibia. The thigh bone, shattering the thigh bone. Suchiomimus tries to put weight on it, but it falls over again, coughing up blood, spitting up blood as it slowly puddles around its mouth. Ankylosaurus, with one last swing, smashes the skull of Suchiomimus, breaking its skull, sending bone fragments into its brain, killing it. Ankylosaurus is the victor. So yeah, I think we all saw this coming. There's not much. I mean, it is a little bit obvious that Ankylosaurus fights things like T-Rex. I'm sorry, what is a Suchiomimus going to do? I'm not going to say that like a Suchiomimus is completely incapable of taking down an Ankylosaur. It might have some weird technique where it can reach under it and gut it, basically, but I'm still giving the edge to Ankylosaur. It's about the same size, completely armored. It's a bone pulverizer that's like 6 times as hard as Suchiomimus' bite force or whatever, but like, I love Suchiomimus. I love Suchiomimus. So anybody who thinks I'm just loving on Ankylosaur, I love Suchiomimus probably more than Ankylosaur. So we'll take that with a pinch of salt. So our victors are Triceratops and Ankylosaur. We are having a Goji Center video for a battle. If you don't know what that is, go look it up. Might be worth it. So yeah, I guess that's it for this semifinal battle. Battles. I'm your host, Eric Crawford. If you want to see more from me, go check out my Instagram, Prehistoric Life Podcast. On Instagram, you can see reels, additional posts. You can see what's going on in the week. If you want to see my content 2-ish days in advance, go check out my YouTube. Let me pull that up real quick. Prehistoric Life Podcast. I try to post everything 2-ish days in advance from everywhere else. And if you want all of that in one place, just go check out my website, prehistoriclifepodcast.com. From there, you can get to my YouTube and my Instagram, and you can search for a specific episode. If there's a specific episode you want to find, if you scroll down, you'll see my Instagram. If you scroll around the homepage, you'll see episodes and things like that. You can go watch the other fights and all that. But until next time, I'm your host, Eric Crawford, signing off. This has been Prehistoric Life Podcast, and remember, keep it prehistoric. Goodbye.